Um, Maintain 6 feet distance. That, especially with you guys with coaches. So definitely at your pregame meetings, if you can, try to be 6 feet as far apart with, the players and also the coaches as much as possible. Try not to get any closer. We don't want you guys shaking hands, fist bumps, none of that stuff. Just, say, hello, my name is Taylor. Coach, hey, I'm Jeff, nice to meet you, and then kind of just go on from there with it. We did a lot this weekend with the pastime. But if someone tries to give a fist bump or anything like that, just kindly say, hey, if you just do those kind of things, they'll totally understand that part. During the game, like we talked about kind of procedurals and positioning, when you guys are behind the mounds, try to be at least 6 feet apart. That can be in any single direction. We do suggest, kind of staggering yourself behind the left part or the right part, but obviously try to keep your distance as much as possible with those players, and try to keep that 6 feet of distance at all times when you can with that. A lot of these things on here we'll be kind of doing with everybody in general, so they're not going to be umpire specific, but we're, obviously you need to follow these kind of things as well with it. So arriving and kind of things like that, not going to be too much crucial for you guys. We always ask that in years past, 15 minutes early, so want you guys to do that as much as possible. Just at that same time, try to not congregate by any of the teams or by any of the parents when you are that early. Try to get your stuff together when you can, and then 10 minutes before, go up to the coaches, say, hey, we're going to have a pregame conference in 5 minutes, and then, kind of be on your own after that as well. I want to deal with practices, don't have to deal with games or anything like that. I do want to talk kind of about the coaches. So like we said, you're not there to enforce the rules, you're there to encourage. But as umpires, you guys are kind of coaching still in that same part. If you do see someone, especially on this one here, biggest thing, no spitting seeds, no chewing gum, no anything like that. So if you see somebody that is spitting seeds, spitting gum, anything like that in the dugouts, kindly remind them, or have the coaches kindly remind the kids, hey, we're trying to follow COVID procedures, can't be spitting seeds or anything like that. So that is absolutely nothing this year, especially as umpires too. I know sometimes you guys are base umps who like to spit seeds. We're going to try to veer away from that as much as possible this year, just so we kind of go along with that. Same thing here with the no touch rule. So at the end of the game, what they're doing this year is they're going to do what's called a tip of the cap. So everyone's going to come out of their dugouts, and you're just going to tip your cap to the other team. Umpires, you guys can definitely do that as well. Tip your cap to say, hey, good team, home team, nice job, away team, and go from there with it. No high five, no fist bumps, no nothing like that as much as possible, like we said. So, and then, like I said before, at the beginning of the games, no shaking hands with the coaches or anything like that as well. This is going to be kind of like tournaments as well. So, like usual, can't have more than 4 coaches for the tournaments. That includes any person that's doing the scorebook, like a manager or anything like that. So, but make sure that they do not have more than 4 parents within the vicinity as much as possible. Same thing, like I said, you're not enforcing it, but you're encouraging it as much as possible. Get down here. This is going to have to do with the athletes. It's pretty much the same thing that the coaches have to do with it. Like we said, no spitting, no sharing any food or drink, and no touch rule as much as possible. So that's going to be kind of gets to it. The recommended practices are going to be a little different for the players. I've talked with some coaches already, and it doesn't sound like they're going to enforce a whole ton with the face mask covering for their players. It's things that there are some coaches that are very keen on it. Some coaches that are very, they have very strong opinions about those kind of things. So I wouldn't focus on, who's wearing a mask, who's not. We as an association highly recommend that you guys wear a mask, especially when you are doing that pregame conference. We know it's definitely going to be harder when you're out umpiring, but you can choose to definitely wear it or not. I would take a game or two to feel it out if you do want to do that. But at the same time, we're trying to respect everybody's space and everybody's time as much as possible. So we want you to at least have one if you can when you're at the field, just in case you do have a very disgruntled parent or you have a very disgruntled fan that has some kind of issues. We're not trying to make you guys, we don't want anyone to make themselves the center of attention. We want you guys to be there and do as best as you can with that part of it. So like I said, highly recommend it, not required or anything like that, but just try your best to be as courteous as you can to all of these different things, and everybody will be very grateful because of it. So other thing that's kind of going to be a little different is kids are going to be wearing batting gloves whenever they're handling bats or whenever they can possible. The one exception to that is going to be there still will be enforcing with pitching that you cannot wear a batting glove. So whenever you're pitching, you shouldn't have a batting glove on either the throwing hand or the glove side hand as well. That's going to be like regular rules that we have to begin with. So it's really going to just be when they're, on the bench, and then when they're handling bats or they're handling any other type of equipment, they should really be wearing gloves at least most of the time on that part with it. The other thing that I did forget to mention a little bit here is sanitation. Like I said, always try to bring a mask if you can, just to have it. I also suggest bringing hand sanitizer to every single game if you have it or you can get it. I know it is kind of scarce right now and it's kind of hard to find some of those at different stores like Target. But if you can, try to bring hand sanitizer to every single game that you have, and try to hand sanitize as much as possible. Doesn't have to be every half inning or anything like that, but just as much as you can remember to do it is really going to be, just as much as you can, is going to be really the best kind of thing for it, and it's really going to help in that sense. So I know this past weekend at pastime, I brought some, gave it to my partner a lot. We probably did it once every 2 innings or something, just when we felt it was necessary, just so that we're touching balls and kind of things like that. So that's really going to be kind of the big thing with that. For fans, it's really going to be, like I said, the same type of thing with it. So fans and spectators, same thing, 6 feet. Practices you guys won't have to worry about. That's no big deal. No sunflower seeds, nothing like that. And then same thing, there may be some people that don't wear face masks, but we're not going to be the people that are requiring that or enforce it. That's going to be all of them that's for that as well. Yep.
Okay, so for umpires, so like Taylor kind of said, just maintain that 6 feet of distance. You should be out there behind the pitcher. Shouldn't be that difficult. Really just be cognizant when you're coming and going. Like you're leaving, making sure either you're the first one out of off the field. If there's not a completely surrounded like fence field, kind of go off to the side. Just kind of stay away from people. Similar to what you've been doing already from your social distancing over the past couple months. So it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. Said must conduct daily symptom assessment and stay home from experiencing symptoms. Here's the thing. If you have symptoms, you need to let us know, and you will not umpire, okay? We understand, the coaches understand, the directors understand that, like, there might be some issues. If you have symptoms and you think you have it, you need to let us know immediately, okay? We'll deal with it. We'll handle the backlash. If the game doesn't get umpired, the game doesn't get umpired. But, like, the worst thing is for you to spread it if you think you have it, okay? Now, that's not like a get out of free jail card, right? Like, hey, I don't want to umpire, I'm going to say. But, like, if you have the symptom, if you have so just be cognizant of which, if the pitcher, you're probably just which way the pitcher's falling off. Geez. Being cognizant that a ball coming back, you've got to be pretty quick and move. But you want to get that best look. It's going to be tough. We understand that, like, you're not going to be perfect and there's going to be some issues, but do your best you can, okay? No touch rule. Do not touch anything. There's no reason you need to touch a baseball. There's no reason you need to touch anything out there, okay? If the plate's dirty, have the catcher wipe it off. If the base is dirty, have the second baseman or shortstop wipe it off, or first baseman. There's no reason that you need to touch anything out there. One of the reasons why I think that this actually will end up being much easier from an umping standpoint is you're not having your equipment on. You don't have to deal with the plate. You don't have to deal with running around with all the equipment on, balls off the face mask, the chest. The catcher can't catch the ball, whatnot. You're kind of just being the base ump, and you're kind of just directing traffic out there. It'll be a lot cooler on a warm day, which might end up being a lot better and easier than your traditional umping behind the plate. From a face covering standpoint, it says that's strongly recommended, okay? We understand that some people are more pro-mask than others. Our stance is this: we're also just going to strongly recommend it, okay? If I find out you don't have a mask on, I'm not going to really be upset about it. It's kind of your personal choice. I think during my youth games, I'm probably going to wear a mask just because I want to make other people feel like more comfortable, regardless of their opinions or my opinions. I said I'll start wearing it. I don't know if I'll continue to wear it the whole time, but I would say is this: if you're comfortable wearing a mask, do it. If you're not, it's kind of up to you, okay? I'm not going to stand there and plant my flag and say everybody has to do it. It's really up to you. So just be safe, okay? I think that the first game you're out there, it'll be a little uncomfortable and a little bit weird, just being back there. But as you get more comfortable, like this past weekend, like I was behind the plate for the first game, and I was like, this is a little bit weird being out here umping again. But then as soon as I got some couple innings under the belt, it felt like we're umping normal baseball again. So not a huge issue. Okay. Other than that, really, like, if you have issues, let us know. You just got to be cautious, right? Similar to if you had any other job, right? Don't come to work sick. If you come into contact, you need to let us know so that we can handle it appropriately. We expect everything to move smoothly through the season, and should be no issue. And actually, it'll be a quick season. End up being easier to umpire each game. Season's going to be July 6th, or there's some games now with some scrimmages till the end of August, maybe a little bit, or till the middle of August, maybe end of August. But we just ask everybody, be safe and just be ready to umpire, and have an opportunity for everybody to make some good money in the process. So we'll just kind of go over some kind of things to look out for, how to umpire from behind home plate, or not behind home plate, but behind the pitcher's mound moving forward. So I guess the biggest thing is calling balls and strikes is like the first thing, okay? Right, everybody knows it's when the ball crosses the plate. It's a little easier when you're right by the plate. So do your best. I know breaking balls are going to be difficult for everybody. You're going to use the catchers where he catches it is going to be a lot more prevalent than previous years. So I would say at the end of the day with all of this is use your best judgment, right? Like, the kid's throwing a huge breaking ball and it ends up in the dirt. Hey, it could be a strike. You got to use your best judgment and call what you think, okay? They're going to argue. They might be upset with your strike zone. Here's the thing. You're going to do your best, right? Don't let it worry you. I'm going to send out an email to all of our directors explaining here's what the umpires are dealing with. Here's what they're looking to do. Like, everybody's doing their best out there. And so I would hope that's going to mitigate some of the issues, okay? Couple of things that I've heard so far would be like hit by a pitch or like foul tip. Make sure you're just paying attention, right? Like, it's going to sound a little bit different. It might be a little bit uncomfortable at first trying to figure out those things, but try to pay attention, right? Like, think about, like, if the ball came close to the guy and changes directions, right? Or try to hear that tick. Do your best that you can. Tim and I were talking about how if a pitcher was starting to quick pitch a kid, make sure that you just vocalize, hey, pitcher, you got to stop, right? You can call time and say, hey, you got to wait till the batter's ready to go. Just use your voice a little bit more rather than kind of those hand signals in that case, because now the pitcher can't see you, whereas before he's looking right at you, okay? Fair and foul also comes up as like a big issue. There's going to be situations where the ball is hit and is a line shot, and you're going to do as best you can to call fair or foul, right? It might end up being a foot foul and you called it fair, or it might be hit right on the line and you call it foul, right? The best thing that you can do is make your best judgment call, okay? Maybe parent's going to yell or coach is going to be upset because you got a great look at it and he's like, nope, that was definitely, hey, just remind him, hey, I'm in a different spot this year. I'm going to do my best to call everything as I can. That way he kind of understands what you're looking at, and just kind of share it with them. And we're going to try to talk to all the coaches as well about that, just because we're not necessarily in the right spot for all of this thing. But if you can, if it's a big pop flies way down the left field line, try to just hustle over there and get in position and try to see where it's at. Okay, stay out of the runner's way, but just try to move around. Okay, with being cognizant of being 6 feet away. I guess, does anybody have any questions on what we've covered so far? Kind of had some questions on where positioning, what to call. I know Taylor and I just kind of been spitballing here, trying not to get close to coaches when it comes to even when they have a question. I mean, that it might be a loud conversation, but it's better than standing close within 2 to 3 feet like you normally would.
You can either ask us if you guys want. You can put in the chat if you guys do have questions. Otherwise, if you want to unmute your mic, you can definitely ask us that way too.
I just have a quick question. Like, obviously, I mean, I can just like envision a scenario where like coaches or fans are mad about like somebody not wearing a mask or something related to that. How would you go about resolving that conflict?
Yeah, I would say I would put it on the coach. The head coach is really the one that you should work with on a normal year, right? Like a normal year where, hey, the parents starting to get a little rowdy, or hey, the kid's starting to mouth off, right? Put it on the head coach on, hey, this, like somebody's having an issue, make sure that they just address it. I guess if it's going to become more and more of an issue, let us know at the end of the game, and we'll deal with it from dealing with the director standpoint. Don't put yourself in the situation where you're trying to police everybody wearing a mask. I can imagine that you're probably not going to get a ton of masks from parents, maybe some more from coaches. I wouldn't assume any player is going to have it. So just be cognizant that that's a possibility. I mean, there's no reason why you guys need to be anywhere near parents. Coaches will be a little bit closer, but you can keep your distance. But I would just kind of put it on the coach, and if there becomes a big issue, try to get through that situation and let us know, and we'll for sure address it on the back end.
Yep, and I would say also to kind of go off of that, you are not, like we said, you're not required or anything. So you, as much as possible, you guys, like you said, if you're comfortable, but don't feel like a parent should have to force you into wearing a mask. Like we said, it's highly recommended, but it's not required. So no parent should tell you, hey, you're an umpire, you should have to wear a mask. We don't want, obviously, any confrontational things. So, if you're okay with them asking and you don't have a mask on, I would definitely say go ahead with it. But at the same time, like I said, you're not required to do it. So do not feel like you're forced in any way to have to be put in that situation to do those kind of things.
So the question in the chat about 2-man. So what we're talking about from behind the pitcher, there will only be 1-man game. Okay. So I know most, like 90% of our games are going to be that way. Legion and Pastime. So there was Pastime tournament this past weekend, and there will be in future weekends, and then Legion, which is starting to come up quick. Those are going to be 2-man, just like normal. Okay. I understand if that we didn't have any issues with it over the weekend. I know Legion is not going to have anybody touch, or what we call our Legion. Legion technically canceled. There's a similar league. They're not going to have anybody touch the baseball, so there's no reason for you to touch the baseball in that situation. But this is all going to be 1-man. So really, it's going to be calling every game from behind the pitcher's mound by yourself. So there won't be any issue with 2-man mechanics. Even on the smaller fields, you're still going to be between second base and the pitcher's mound. It might feel a little bit tight. If you're a little bit close to the pitcher, just back up a little bit. There should be more than enough room for you to be. But yeah, it's going to all be 1-man mechanics from here on out.
Thanks, Jacob. Any other questions that anybody has right off the bat here? Oh, got one. No? Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, so kind of the next thing, what do you want? De-escalation.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just cover some like de-escalation issues. So with you being in the in a different spot, right? And coaches are going to see different things to you. This year specifically, we want to especially work on how you can de-escalate, right? Like making sure you let the coach know, hey, I'm in a different spot, and don't make that like an excuse just to not pay attention or not to know what's going on, but just how you can de-escalate. Hey, coach, this is what I saw. Here's the rule. Here's the interpretation of the rule. Let's play ball, right? Or, hey, coach, like based on where my position was, this is what I saw, and this is what I called, right? This doesn't need to be a back and forth, right? It doesn't need to be a coach who's going to argue back and forth. Try to find ways to de-escalate, okay? I would assume that most coaches are going to be very, like, calm this year just because they're trying to coach their kids, right? It's going to be a little bit different from a competitive standpoint. So you shouldn't have as many issues. But just remember, right, like, at the last, we don't want to eject anybody if we can, right? And there's guys that earn it, and there's players that earn it, and there's parents that earn it. But trying to ways to work on that, right? Like making sure that they're asking about judgment calls, not like, hey, this is it, right? There's rule discrepancies, right? Like maybe a coach just has a different understanding of the rule than you do, right? That happens. Coaches think they know more than they do. So just explain the rule, okay? It doesn't need to turn into a shouting match. They might disagree, okay? It doesn't need to turn into you yelling back at them, and then it just kind of boils over from there. Just make sure that you're just focusing on how, like, what did you see? Here's the rule. Here's the interpretation of the rule, and just understand they're going to have questions, right? We haven't played baseball for a long, long time, okay? So just ways to get them moving forward, not dwelling on something, trying to hustle around, right? I mean, you can still have the opportunity there's a play at the plate, you can still get close to home plate, right? You can still get first to third, you can still move around. So making sure you're still using those tactics, right? Earning their respect by hustling, right? Making sure you're loud and confident. So it shouldn't be as much of an issue in this year, but making sure that you're properly prepped for those confrontations.
Chris has a question here about what is the most hardest common things. So we actually were supposed to have scrimmages tonight and also last night. They all got rained out, unfortunately, so we have not had any umpire be behind home plate or be behind the pitching mound at this point. Just kind of brainstorming and just kind of talking about a little bit the different things that we kind of talked about that will be the hardest things. Will obviously be your fair foul situations. That will be a very hard kind of thing, like we said, especially if it's a line drive. The biggest thing that we just kind of say about that is, use your what can you see in this situation. It's like any other play that you'd have in baseball. You are going to base your decision and base it off of what you can see. You're not going to make up and try to predict calls. You guys cannot make them off a fly or whim. If you see that it went fair and it was fair, you're going to call it fair. If you see that it was in foul ground, not. If it's going to be a close one, it's whatever that first instinct is, kind of like a safer out call, kind of like anything else that you would have in baseball. So just trust your instincts as much as possible and go with what you have, and that's going to be the best practice for those kind of situations. Another thing that we might have a little bit of issues with is going to be the strike zone. So obviously behind home plate, you do have a better view and a better kind of, gauge on where the ball is and when it crosses the plate. So that's going to be a little hard this year. I'm not going to say, hey, go off what's based off where the catcher catches it. We still want you guys to try your best to decide where it crosses the plate. But just know, you may have to change your strike zone up, may change your technique on how you go about seeing the strike zone a little bit, just based off of the positioning that you are. We shouldn't have as many striker ball calls issues because of those type of things. But at the same time, make sure it's well known, hey, if it's an obvious strike, call it an obvious strike. If it's an obvious ball, you should know that's a ball. So make sure you keep those things in mind when you guys are umping. Other than that, there will be easier things I know. So I know like Jordan kind of talked about, getting hit by a pitch or getting someone get hit in the foot. That should be an easier call because that should be the base ump's call to begin with. Close plays at first, second, or third should be easier since you should have a better angle and you should be closer to it. Also, steals at second base, that should be easier for you guys as well since you're already out there in the field. So that should be easier to get a right angle, get that right positioning so that you're in the position to make the right and logical call in that instance. So like we talked about, there are going to be some harder things, but there definitely will be some easier things that will make your job a lot easier, and make umpiring a lot more bearable and a lot more fun this year as well with it.
Yeah, and if you guys are seeing stuff, I mean, we haven't, like, we're kind of here with you, and we're all in this together. If you guys do a couple of games and you're like, hey, this might be something really good for everybody else to know, like, let us know. We'll shoot an email out saying, hey, we are seeing this, or like, we've had guys that have had issues with this. Like, we want to know, because we're kind of in the unknown as well. But I think overall, the fact that I'm not going to get hit with a foul ball off the chest, I'm not going to get pelted because the catcher can't catch it, deal with all of that stuff. I'm going to be standing on some softer grass, or I guess depending the younger ages, some dirt, but not having to deal with all the equipment. I think overall it should be a pretty good experience. And the season's going to be fast and pretty quick, and all of a sudden you're going to blink and it's going to be over and you've done a bunch of games. So just keep that in mind. Like, we're all in this together. And I know that, like, we get text messages and calls from coaches and directors just like, hey, do you guys have enough umps? And like, they're excited to play. They're excited to have a game. And a lot of these kids haven't played sports and competitive sports for months now, and it's been a long time. So I think everybody's pretty excited. So just take it with a positive attitude, and we might hit some bumps in the road here and there, but just kind of take it as you get it.
Michael does bring up a really good point too, about the falling off the mound. Really, like you said, watch the warm-up pitches that each player has for the pitchers, and you can kind of gauge which side that you need to be on in that instance, so you can see the best. I also just say whatever you feel is most comfortable is really what we're looking at. There's no correct way to do it. If you can get the best angle and you can get from either side, and you can, make the best calls, that's really all that we ask for in that situation. So, but yeah, good point, Michael. Watch the warm-up pitches to see where they're falling off, and also how that angle that ball's coming in, so you can watch where it crosses the plate as well. So, any other questions right now? Otherwise, I just have a couple other things. Nope. Okay. The only really other thing that I had, and I will see if I can find my slide on this real quick. There we go. Okay. So the only other thing that we kind of talked about is going to be equipment. So, you're not going to need everything that you have this year. So for the guys that do have chest protectors and shin guards and face masks, I would say just keep it in your car. You're not going to use it really this much unless you're doing Legion or pastime games, but definitely keep it on hand. There could be a possibility, we don't know for sure what this whole season is going to entail, but there could be a possibility that at one point in time that they choose to switch back going behind the plate, somewhat maybe in the season, maybe it's the fall season. So just keep your equipment on hand if you can. Keep it in your car if you want to, or something like that. We will definitely let you guys know if that ever does happen and communicate that out to you. But that's going to be the one thing that shouldn't have to have an issue with this year. We still want you guys to have rules, printouts, or on your phone if you can. So, whatever age that you're going to be doing, it will be a little harder this year since we are doing a lot more Gopher State games as well as NBL. So kind of knowing those rule differentials before you go to your specific games. We still want you to have an indicator. You're still going to be calling balls and strikes and everything like that. Jordan said not to touch the plate, which is correct. But I would say, too, in between innings, if you can try to brush off the plate, you don't have to be walking up in between every single batter or every single pitch to go brush off the plate. But it's always nice to do it between innings or before the first pitch of each inning is good. And then same thing for tournaments, like always. You need a coin, you need a pen, you need a water bottle. Those are going to be your three kind of big things that you need with that one. Tournaments, you will need a coin. We'll still be flipping. Pen, you're still going to need that for getting the scorecards and everything like that. That will not change at this point. And then sunglasses are still optional. So if you do want to wear sunglasses, you can definitely go ahead and doing that. We do ask those at the same time, if you do have sunglasses, make sure that they're non-glaring ones so that you're not distracting the batter or anything like that. And try to be black if possible with those sunglasses so that you're not being any type of distraction or anything like that. Otherwise, the only other thing that we have for equipment, why is it doing this? Make sure that you guys are still following the dress code as much as possible. Be the same way that you would be when you're dressing up for a base umpire. So, make sure we're wearing black shoes if you can. Try to wear your dress pants that you would wear behind the plate, your collared shirt, and your hat. We sent out an email with the different links for the places that you can buy a lot of those things. If you still do not have them or you still need them, you can either contact us if you do need those links sent out. Otherwise, I would say get them now, so within the next couple of days, because when games start next week, we do expect you guys to be dressed as professional as possible. Dark blue is fine, black is fine, light blue, whatever color that you have for an umpire shirt, but please try your best to get one of those and do your best to have some kind of collared on it, so that we're trying to look as professional as possible. It will make you guys look really good. It will make you look very respectable, really responsible, and then we'll look really good on our association as well. So make sure that, like we said, not having equipment, but that doesn't mean that you get a slack off. Try to wear it, look as presentable and professional as possible, and you'll get that respect and that dignity from those coaches as well.
Okay, so I just want to cover a little bit about payment stuff. So we're still going to pay. We're going to pay every 2 weeks. So the pay periods are going to be the 1st to the 15th and 16th through the end of the year. And you'll get paid direct deposit 3 days later. So if you are on here and you don't have your banking information done, probably should take care of that so you can get paid. Anything before the 1st of July, so this past time and between now and the 1st of July, that'll be on the 1st to the 15th pay period, so get that on the 18th. Everything will be direct deposit. If there's any issues, let me know. We want to make this as seamless as possible, but I might make a few mistakes here and there, and it's not because I want to slight you some money. It's just there's a lot of you and one of me, so we want to make that as easy as possible. I guess the big thing is it's going to be a short season, so make sure you sign up for as many games as possible. We think that there's going to be a lot of games. There's no in-house games to kind of help cover our holes this year, so we got to cover every game as best as possible all year. So make sure you sign up. We will be sending out an email, but we are sending out the regular season schedule to be signed up for at 7:30 tomorrow night. Okay, so 7:30 tomorrow night, starting tomorrow night, you can sign up for games. So make sure you're ready to go. There should be plenty of games for everybody. We are also going to have the available to umpire slots there again this year. So what that is, for those who don't know, is if you sign up for an available to umpire slot, you will you'll be kind of the first person. You'll be the first person will pick up and put on a game once a game becomes available. So even if it's like there's only a 10-year-old game available and you're a guy that normally does 14s and 15s, we can move you around if we need to, just to fill some games. Or if there's like a rain out into that day or somebody drops out, you'll be the first person to get those games. So we want to make sure that we want to make it as easy as possible for you guys. We kind of do hold you to that available umpire as long as it's more than 24 hours out. And then we, within 24 hours, we'll just ask you just in case you've made plans or whatnot. So I think for the most part, it should be a good year. Scott will be some transitioning and we'll help him out kind of getting up to speed. But let us know if you have any questions, any issues. We're happy to help wherever we can with you guys. There's another question. Oh, hey. This is private, but anyways. So we're going to have under forms in Arbiter, so it's lists and forms. We will have updated documents out either tomorrow or Thursday. It'll show payment, it'll show different policies, pay policies, everything like that. For the most part, there's a few exceptions. I think Legion has passed one of the only few exceptions, but compared to last year, every game should be either $3 or $4 more per game. So that's obviously great for everybody. Do 10 games, you get an extra $40 for those 10 games than you did last year. Like for example, like 14 and 15s in Woodbury is over $50. So definitely help. And we're always just trying to push to get those game fees more every year. But yeah, and then just so everybody's aware, there's a base pay that we have for the game. So like Cottage Grove, Woodbury, Eastridge games are going to be a base pay because of most of our umpires are located there. And then the farther away from that you go, so like Matamidi, Oakdale, some St. Paul, whatnot, the games will pay a little bit more.
as much as $4 a game more than what it would be for Woodbury. So, and it varies. And if anybody has any questions, you can refer to kind of that payment document that we're going to put out. Otherwise, you can always ask me, and I'm happy to help. So yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, you can obviously text or call us or email us at any time, but is there any questions? Because if you have questions now, probably somebody else has questions as well.
We're silent.
Nope. Well, I think we kind of covered everything, and we got it done a little bit earlier than we expected, which is good. But if you guys have any questions throughout the year, let us know. Hoping to get everything filled and want to make this as best of a season as we possibly can in the 6+ weeks that we're actually going to have it.
Wednesday at 7:30. Remember that. We're going to send out an email later tonight too, but Wednesday at 7:30 you can start signing up for games. So we will click the button pretty much at 7:30 first. So we'll be right on time. So get on Arbiter, get onto the self-assign. If you don't know how to do self-assign yet, please let us know, and we will teach you, or we can walk you through whatever you need to do. But yeah, be on it Wednesday at 7:30 if you can, and we can go from there with it. And then games start Monday. So this next Monday is when games start. So we have games right away when you get off. When you get back from 4th of July. So please sign up as much as you can for that first week, especially. But like we said, it's a short season. It's going to go very quick. So if you can, try to do as many games as possible. It's going to be a lot easier this year. Like Jordan said, more pay. So we do ask, try your best to sign up to as much games as you can possible, and we'll make everything work as possible.
Yeah, and just like reiterating on that, like I think everybody wants to make this season as best as possible. So making sure that we don't miss as many games as possible is definitely something that we're looking to do. And we want to make sure that there's opportunities for you guys. So have a great year this year. Other associations will definitely notice, and we're able to expand and get people more games and more opportunities to do higher level games. So any way you guys can help us out would be great. And any way we can make kind of the parents, the coaches, and the players experience as best as possible during this crazy time would be much appreciated. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Unless anybody has any questions, should be all set to go.
Have a good night, guys.
Take care, everybody.